The second MoU is on reaffirmation and demarcation of international boundaries between the Republic of Kenya and the United Republic of Tanzania. Ministers will now exchange the instruments and present them to all of us, to the plenary. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. The third instrument is the MoU on education, and it's an honor and privilege to invite the ministers responsible for education. The ministers have exchanged the instruments. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you. You may resume your seats. Thank you.
The Joint Commission for Cooperation between the Republic of Kenya and the United Republic of Tanzania was held in Nairobi from the 19th to the 24th of August 2021. The JCC session was convened as a follow-up to the successful maiden visit of Her Excellency Samia Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania, to the Republic of Kenya on the 4th to the 5th of May 2021. The Joint Commission for Cooperation brought together cabinet secretaries and ministers, principal and permanent secretaries, diplomats and senior public officials from government ministries, department and state agencies of our two countries. The Kenya delegation was led by Ambassador Raychelle Omamo, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Kenya, and the Tanzanian delegation was led by Her Excellency Honorable Ambassador Liberata Mulamula, MP, from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation of Tanzania. The JCC provided a platform to strengthen bilateral relations between Kenya and Tanzania. Deliberations during the JCC were undertaken cognizant of the existing areas of cooperation between our two countries in the political, defense, security, economic, social, and cultural spheres. The fourth session of the JCC was organized at 3 levels, namely the ministerial segment, the principal secretaries meeting, and the senior officials meeting. The agenda of the fourth session of the Joint Commission for Cooperation was as follows. There was a review of the status of implementations of decisions and recommendations of the third session of the JCC, review of the status of implementation of previously agreed memorandum of understanding, and lastly, consideration of new ways and areas of cooperation between Kenya and Tanzania, including draft memorandums of understanding. So what were the outcomes? During the JCC, Kenya and Tanzania signed the following memorandums of understanding to strengthen and enhance cooperation between the two countries, namely a memorandum of understanding on political and diplomatic consultation. The object of this memorandum is to establish a bilateral consultation system to carry out regular consultations to evaluate bilateral relations between Kenya and Tanzania and to coordinate positions of mutual interest. We also signed a memorandum of understanding on higher education, scientific and technology cooperation. This MoU was adopted to establish cooperation between Kenya and Tanzania in the fields of higher education, science, technology, and innovation through the mutual development of activities that contribute to national development in both countries. Lastly, on border affirmation, the ministers took note of the commendable process made in the reaffirmation and demarcation exercise and urged both governments to commit sufficient resources to ensure that the exercise proceeds. And in this regard, the two countries signed a memorandum of understanding on reaffirmation and demarcation of the international borders. On trade, the JCC took note of the progress made by the Joint Trade Committee in addressing 30 out of the 64 challenges facing bilateral relations and urged the resolution of the 34 issues that are remaining before the end of December 2021. On health matters, the ministers took note of the meeting between the health ministers held in Nairobi recently that resolved to put in place a joint mechanism for dealing with COVID-19, including testing and vaccine rollout. Further, it was agreed to set up modalities for the exchange of health personnel. On immigration and labor, the JCC took note of the Joint Technical Committee meeting of immigration chiefs and labor officials to discuss immigration and labor matters held on the 5th of August 2021. The JCC emphasized the importance of regular interaction at the highest level to review progress and to iron out any issues. It was agreed that the next JCC will be held every year. The next one, scheduled to be held next year in the United Republic of Tanzania, hosted by my dear sister in 2022. This press statement is issued at Nairobi, this the 24th of August, 2021. I thank you. Those inspiring closing remarks. I have the privilege to also make a few remarks as we bring these deliberations to a close. Your Excellency, Ambassador Liberata Mulamula, the Foreign Minister of the United Republic of Tanzania, and also the Minister for Eastern African Cooperation, Excellency Ministers and Permanent Secretaries, our senior officials from both our respective countries, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted that we have come to a very pleasant and cordial close to this fourth session of the Kenya-Tanzania Joint Commission for Cooperation. I'm delighted that we have met. I'm delighted that we have met in Nairobi and that we have fulfilled the instructions that our respective presidents gave to us earlier on this year. But you know, we do not need instructions to meet, because Tanzania is more than a friend of Kenya. Tanzania is a neighbor of Kenya. And we are told in the scriptures that you should love your neighbor more than yourself. And we are told as students of law that your neighbor is that person that you owe the greatest duty of care. So we are here to show our deepest friendship, but to go further than that, but to show that you are our neighbor who we hold in such high regard. I thank you for holding the deliberations that have gone on over the past few days in a friendly environment. I thank you for being assiduous. I thank you for being deliberate. I thank you for being rigorous. And I thank you for looking at our relationship in the broadest sense, seeing its potential, seeing its value, and seeing its necessity for peace and prosperity in our region. I am pleased that we were able to move forward with the 3 MoUs that we have concluded today. I think they are important because education is the foundation of our country. Education is the engine of our 2 countries, and it is essential that we continue to cooperate in this field. I'm glad that we also concluded the various agreements that we had on political consultations, just to add rigor to our discussions and to our dialogue. And of course, we were able to conclude the MoU on the demarcation of our border. Our hope is that the technical teams that have now achieved about 70% on the work regarding the reaffirmation and demarcation of our borders will now receive that impetus to proceed to finish this important work. My sister, I ask that you come again, and that you come with an even larger delegation from Tanzania. We look forward to visiting Tanzania for the 5th session of our JCC, but in the interim, we undertake to work to achieve the objectives that we have set out. It is not sufficient to have memorandums of understanding without having them implemented. So our challenge today is to implement those memorandums of understanding, to explore new areas of cooperation, and to do so in the spirit of harmony and friendship. With those words, I'd like to emphasize our deepest appreciation to each and every one of you. We wish you all journey mercies as you proceed back to Tanzania. We say, if you wish to stay a little bit longer and enjoy Nairobi, enjoy Kenya, it's getting warmer, you can, you're most welcome. And we say to you that it takes friends, it takes neighbors to walk together, and to walk together every day in a sustained matter, to walk together in friendship and in love, and to work together, understanding that we all have a joint future from which we can all prosper. With those words, I declare this fourth inaugural session of the Kenya-Tanzania Joint Commission for Cooperation officially closed, and thank you all for your participation.
Affairs and my co-chair of this ministerial session, honorable ministers and cabinet secretaries, here present, Your Excellency, the High Commissioner of the United Republic of Tanzania to the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency, the High Commissioner of the Republic of Kenya to the United Republic of Tanzania, permanent secretaries, principal secretaries from Kenya and Tanzania, our distinguished senior officials from both delegations, invited guests, members of the media. As we conclude this fourth session of the JCC, of the Joint Commission for Cooperation, I'm pleased, my dear sister, that the discussions and our deliberations at our meeting today were held in a warm and cordial atmosphere, and were guided by the same spirit espoused by our leaders. I'm also pleased that during the course of our meeting, we reviewed the status of our cooperation in immigration, labor, correctional services, refugees, police, joint border administrators, commissioners, committees, public service management, justice border issues, cultural, social integration and national heritage, health, youth affairs and sports, gender, children and social development, transport, fisheries, agriculture, livestock, energy, tourism, industry and trade, and of course, political and diplomatic cooperation, to mention a few. We are optimistic that our sectoral cooperation will further enhance the friendly relations and cooperation between our two countries and deepen the excellent collaboration that currently exists. In this regard, the agreements reached here in the three MoUs that have been concluded and signed today on political and diplomatic consultations, the reaffirmation on international boundary, and higher education, science, and technology will serve entirely the expectation of our two governments and peoples, premised on cooperation, stability, and prosperity. We are sincerely committed to the deliberations of this Joint Commission of Cooperation and the MoUs that have been appended, that we have appended our signatures today. And for those that are yet to be finalized, I hope they will be concluded soon for signature and implementation. Honorable ministers, cabinet secretaries, distinguished delegates, it will be remiss of me if I do not make a call to action. Now that we have concluded the agreed minutes, I call on sectoral ministries on both sides to operationalize and implement the decisions reached during this session within the agreed timeframes in order to realize the desired benefits from our enhanced bilateral cooperation agreed upon through this JCC. Honorable ministers, cabinet secretaries, my dear colleagues, we leave Nairobi with a sense of satisfaction that whereas our bilateral relations continue to flourish, but we also agreed that we need to do more, to work very closely to improve implementation of our agreed areas. We also live here with a roadmap in the form of agreed minutes for promoting the socio-economic relations for the mutual benefits of our two countries and peoples. Honorable ministers and cabinet secretaries, dear colleagues, Since the JCC sessions are held on a rotational basis, I wish to state that we look forward to receiving you in Tanzania for the 5th session of the JCC in 2020. Of course, the proposed dates will be communicated according through our diplomatic channels. But let me once again thank my co-chair and the government of the Republic of Kenya for hosting us so well and putting excellent facilities that has enabled us to conclude this important session successful. As I said, I want to again kuwakaribisha Tanzania, karibuni sana, and live long the excellent relations that exist between Tanzania and Kenya, and of course, long live the friendship, the brotherhood, and sisterhood that exists between His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta and Her Excellency President Mama Samia Suluhu Hassan. Asanteni sana na waaga kwa jina la Jamhuri ya Tanzania. Asanteni sana, kazi iendelee.
Officials from our respective governments, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Kenya delegation and on my own behalf, it is a very great pleasure for me to extend to you a warm welcome to this, the 4th session of the Kenya-Tanzania Joint Commission for Cooperation. We consider this meeting and your visit, colleagues, as an important milestone in the long-standing relationship between our two countries. I wish to recall the maiden state visit of Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania, to the Republic of Kenya from the 4th to the 5th of May 2021. During this visit, the two heads of states underscored the urgent need to further strengthen and deepen the existing bilateral relations and cooperation between the two countries in the areas of political affairs, defense, security, economic and social spheres. And they called upon us to convene a joint commission for cooperation at the earliest. Therefore, convening this 4th session is a testament of our determination to further strengthen our relations and explore possible new areas of cooperation with a view to consolidate mutual benefits. At the onset, I wish to record my appreciation to the respective technical teams for their hard work and dedication during the deliberations held in the last 3 days. These officials have done an excellent job, and I am confident that their work will enable us to have fruitful discussions that will not only advance the fraternal ties existing between our countries, but also enhance the common values and aspirations for a better life for our citizens. I really want to acknowledge the Kenyan team who were able to arrange this meeting. And I would like Ambassador Rina to please stand up so that we can acknowledge you. This is a first-class officer who has driven this exercise to its fruition today. Thank you so much, Balozi. Kenya and Tanzania enjoy excellent bilateral relations, and the Joint Commission for Cooperation remains an important driver of this special relationship. I believe the senior officials meeting here have reviewed, among other things, the progress made in the implementation of the outcomes of the previous sessions with a view to determining the way forward in areas where we are lagging behind. The senior officials have also reviewed the status of implementation of previously agreed memorandums of understanding and considered new areas of cooperation, including draft memoranda of understanding in various areas to enhance relations between our two countries. And I thank you for this once more. Progress has been made and achievement realized in some of the key areas of cooperation, such as trade. Importantly, our two countries have been able to address 30 out of the 64 challenges facing our bilateral trade and have come up with a way forward for addressing the remaining 34. Resolving these challenges will drastically improve trade investment between our two countries. And I really want to thank our trade ministers. Thank you, CS Minor, and thank you, the Minister of Trade of Tanzania. Well done for pushing this agenda forward. Well done. I'm glad that the 4th session of the JCC has come up with tangible results that will go a long way in enhancing our relations for the mutual benefits of our two countries. This afternoon, we'll be signing 3 memorandum of understanding, namely the MoU on holding of political and diplomatic consultations, the MoU on higher education, scientific and technological cooperation, and the MoU on the reaffirmation and demarcation of our international border. It is my sincere hope that we will not only just execute these instruments, we will endeavor to implement them in a way that enhances and strengthens the relationship between our countries and affirms our brotherhood, our sisterhood, and our good neighborliness. My delegation and I look forward to the benefits that will be derived from the JCC with a compelling aspiration to strengthen and deepen bilateral relations between Kenya and Tanzania. I thank you for your kind attention, and I now invite my sister.
Thank you, my dear sister, Honorable Ambassador Raychelle Omamo, Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs and co-chair of this ministerial session. I recognize once again the presence of the honorable ministers and cabinet secretaries here present. I recognize also the presence of our High Commissioner of the United Republic of Tanzania to the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Dr. John Simba Chawene. I also wish to recognize the presence of His Excellency Dani Kazungu, the High Commissioner of the Republic of Kenya to the United Republic of Tanzania. Help upo balozi safi. I also wish to recognize the presence of the permanent secretaries from both Tanzania and Kenya here present, and the distinguished senior officials from both delegations, the teams that have worked hard in preparing this meeting, members of the media, if they are around, invited guests, Madibibi na mabwana. It's a great honor and privilege for me to be part of this historic event. And indeed, my dear sister, I must say this is my first Commission for Cooperation meeting since I assumed my duties as the Minister for Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation. I'm happy also to see the presence of the Cabinet Secretary of the East African Cooperation. Waziri nafurahi kukuona. I was telling my dear sister, Ambassador Raychelle, I said she's lucky. She's not holding the East African Cooperation portfolio because it is really an added responsibility, but it's a good one. I wanted, of course, also to recognize the presence of my delegation that is accompanying me, the honorable ministers and permanent secretary and senior officials. But looking on my right, Honorable Chair, you can appreciate how Tanzania attaches great importance to our bilateral cooperation, our sister and brotherhood solidarity, but the importance that these ministers especially have attached to this JCC meeting. Because as we are speaking, we were supposed to be meeting as cabinet ministers from both sides of our union government in Zanzibar. But the President, Her Excellency Mama Samia Suluhu Hassan, says this is equally important. So we are here to underline the importance we attach in our bilateral cooperation and relations. Honorable Chair, I would like also to take this opportunity on behalf of the government of the United Republic of Tanzania, my colleague, the Cabinet Secretary of the East African Cooperation, knows that we are famously known as URT. At first I was wondering, who is this URT? Now I'm getting used, but I'm speaking on behalf of URT to thank the Republic of Kenya for convening and hosting this long overdue fourth session of our JCC between our two countries. In the same vein, I wish to thank the government and the people of Kenya for the warm hospitality extended to me and my delegation since our arrival in this beautiful city of Nairobi, but in this very beautiful hotel. I also wish to commend the technical teams and our senior officials of both countries for the excellent work that has been done in preparing this meeting. In particular, I wish to commend the co-chairs of the senior officials, the permanent secretaries meeting, for steering well the work and for their report and recommendations which has facilitated the work of the ministerial work. Before the recommendations are before us for consideration. And in a special way, Chair, I wish to express my appreciation to the impetus and momentum given by our two heads of state, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya, and Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania, towards furthering our relations. You may recall very well at the meeting with the business community, our president said that for people in Tanzania and Kenya, we have Uhuru on one side and we have Suluhu on the other side. And you can see that since that visit, we have really energized, and there have been a flurry of activities at bilateral, regional, and multilateral forum between our two countries, which have been very impressive and well recorded. Honorable Chair, honorable ministers and cabinet secretaries, distinguished delegates, I wish again to reiterate what my co-chair said, to commend the work done by the ministers and cabinet secretaries responsible for trade and health, who have met, and through their meetings, they discussed pertinent issues pertaining to the removal of non-tariff barriers to trade and responses to the COVID-19 pandemic prior to our meeting. I was also happy to note that the Minister and the Cabinet Secretary of Health eventually met here in Kenya, in Nairobi, and they agreed on modalities of handling the COVID-19 tests as directed by our principals. We noticed, since we arrived, that the area which has been well harmonized is the test of COVID-19. I'm also happy to note that our two countries are now ready to commence the second phase of the reaffirmation exercise of our international boundary, as agreed by our technical teams who met in Mombasa, Kenya, from 21st to the 5th June this year. Indeed, let me say, our JCC meeting is the extension of the sectoral meetings. We take note of the progress in implementing matters agreed upon during the previous sessions of the JCC and continue honoring directives by our heads of state in the intervening period. But then when we were taken through the draft agreed minutes, we realized that our senior officials have also brought to our attention many more areas of cooperation. And we'll go through the recommendations they are making that we believe these are important sectors, but maybe later, as we prepare for our next meeting, we might have maybe to zero down on maybe few key sectors that we can be assured that they will be fully implemented. So, honorable ministers, cabinet secretaries, distinguished delegates, as I conclude my remarks, I wish to thank you, Madam Co-Chair, for your illustrious leadership and guidance since we started this joint commission meeting at the senior officials level on 20th August. It has been 4 days in Nairobi, and I could see, especially my senior officials, they are falling in love and not wanting even to leave early. So I just allowed them to enjoy Nairobi after this. Once again, I wish to thank all officials and members of the two delegations who have worked diligently to make this session a success, but to you, my dear sister, and your team for putting in place these excellent facilities that augur well for our successful meeting. Asante sana. Napenda pia kuwasalimu kwa jina la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Kazi inaendelea. Asante sana.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for your remarks. I will now proceed to the next segment, which is